Whenever you're ready.
Call this meeting to order. Next, we'll be taking roll call. Bonnie Elliott.
Present.
James Langhorn.
Present.
Ken McClellan.
Here.
Stephen Metzger.
Here, yes.
And Stephen, I understand, is...
Yes, Mr. Chair. The Building and Safety Division received a written notice from Stephen. He's had to step down from the board due to personal reasons. So
Okay.
We'll be looking for a replacement probably about a year from now. There's a annual replacement period or process.
Can you raise his microphone?
Hello. Okay.
Juliet Sponsel.
Here.
Vincent Wood.
Here.
Marcia Zellis.
Here.
Thank you. Andrew Stuffler.
Here.
Next item, are there any amendments to the agenda? No? How about approval from our last minutes? Does anybody have any questions on it?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I abstained because I was absent.
Sorry.
I apologize. I abstained because I was absent.
Any public comments, items not on this agenda? Nope. Move on to the next. Next would be the Bath Street Bradley Studios Manager's Office. Would staff like to present?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Skip, you want to come up and join us? This is a situation where the Building and Safety Division of Community Development Department and the Housing Authority are trying to work together to resolve a safety issue that they're having at one of the facilities that was recently constructed. I believe it was built in 2012, 13, in that time frame. And so what we wanted to do, this is part of the balancing of different code requirements and operational needs. So we wanted to bring this item before you for your input. And it's not a decision. You don't have to render a decision. You don't have to vote on it. We just wanted to hear your collective input so that Skip and I can then sit down and figure out what is the best way to serve the community in light of the situation that they have in their office. Kind of unusual, but it's where I can come to you for advice, and I don't need to put you in a position where you have to take a side. You can just share your expertise and your input with us.
Can't hear.
So with that, did everybody get a copy of my staff report and have an opportunity to look at that? I don't want to rehash that. And I think Skip's ready to step in, and he can answer questions for you, give you a little more information from his perspective of what's going on at this facility and how they're trying to address that.
Thank you. Skip Szymanski with the Housing Authority, City of Santa Barbara. I'm the Deputy Executive Director, Chief Operating Officer. So in general, I oversee the departments that...
You turn the volume up a little bit more.
It's as loud as it can go.
That's it.
I can hear fine. Can you?
I will speak louder if it helps. I oversee both the departments that do the day-to-day maintenance and operations of the apartments and the lease-up of the apartments. We provide affordable housing for the city of Santa Barbara, and we have done several new developments that we call tax credit projects, and that's the manner in which they're funded, but they also have specific populations that we serve. This particular property is Bradley Studios. It's on Bath Street. I believe it's 53 units. We have an on-site manager. The manager lives there. It's a second-floor apartment, and we also have several offices on the first floor. The population that we serve at Bradley Studios, they are low income. We also, not only are they low income, we target downtown workers, formerly homeless individuals or individuals with special needs, as well as some youth aging out of foster care. Originally, when we had designed this project, because of our experiences, we had designed the manager's office with the entry off of the lobby, and that you could see from the diagram that is attached. We had it designed.
Point that on the diagram.
Yes.
And then pause just a minute. So where's the entry off the lobby?
This is the entry into the lobby, and it's designated as IW6 Manager's Office. That is off of the lobby. We had designed it with a back door that gave an exit for the site manager, because when we do these types of projects, we have found that the population that we serve often has can have a tendency to be agitated or aggravated over situations. Sometimes if someone is being evicted, they're not pleased with the eviction, but we have to follow through with the rules and regulations for these properties. When the project was originally designed, as I said, it did have a second door. The building department or the plan checker had pointed out that exit would not comply with the current handicap accessibility rules and regulations, so the door was left off. We had framed it and drywalled it in and said, okay, we'll move on and not have that door. Since that time, we had an incident with an individual that was being evicted or had been evicted. We have with us Bernie Baggerly, who is the site manager, so he's the person that was in the office. At the time of the incident, Bernie was in the office. He had previously had an encounter with an individual that was very angry and agitated because he was in the eviction process. Bernie saw him on the site when he was not supposed to be there, and he saw him coming into the lobby. Bernie got up and locked the door to his office. The individual proceeded to bang on the door, yell at him, expressing his anger and displeasure for the action that had taken place. Bernie called 911. Eventually, the individual left, but it brought about the real fears that we face with having a site manager that does not have an alternate plan to get themselves out of the office. We had talked with Andrew, Mr. Stuffler, but we're trying to come up with some kind of compromise where we can get the second exit, recognizing that it would be used for emergencies, and understanding that it does not meet the current handicap accessibility laws.
So with that, we'd like your input on your perspective and opinions on weighing this safety issue for the occupant of the office versus the accessibility compliance. The codes, as those of you who have used the code know, it's very stringent, right? It's very black and white. But it does have provisions at the front of the code where, as a building official, I can make an interpretation based on circumstances that are specific to a site. So the building code's going to tell us, as it did when the plans came in, it says, hey, if you add another door to a building, it's got to comply with all the door requirements. And if the door requirements include accessibility, then it's got to be accessible. And that's great in a cookie-cutter world where everything works out just the way the code development folks thought it would. But in this case, we thought we'd bring this before the board to hear your opinion on how you weigh the accessibility provisions and the additional exit door from that office. And I opened it up to the chair to just ask the board.
Yeah, thank you. Any questions or any questions you got for?
Since you're trying to eliminate it or specify it's just for emergency exit, can you also require that it does have an emergency bell when it is opened? Because it might be, a bad situation that's happening right there and nobody else, if they don't know about it, they can't come to the aid. And then the other thing, it seems apparent that it's really needed, and I would only say that it seems like an item that should not have tremendous discussion, but be put to the vote quickly.
Could I respond to the one question?
Yes.
Regarding the bell, given some recent instances which have been in the news, the Housing Authority also tries to stay up on how to react during what's termed an active shooter situation, and that may be an extreme. But one of the lessons in there is to be quiet in what safety position you are taking. Shut your phone off, don't make any noise, get under a desk, run away, do whatever. But you don't want to bring attention to your escape route. So although in a fire or some other situation you may want a bell or an alarm to go off, we would not want anything to go off in this particular instance. But it's a very good question.
Thank you.
There's a similar situation to this at the Maritime Museum on the 4th floor. Now, granted, that building was built in the 30s, but if you go up to the 4th floor, the only way to get up and down is by the elevator. And there is a door on the north side of that room that has a metal winding, I guess you call it a circular stairway that goes down to the kitchen of the restaurant behind it. And it's on that door, it says to be used only in emergencies, not an exit. And it seems to me it's the same thing. Some agitated person comes up to the 4th floor, there's no way to get out of there. You're stuck unless you want to jump off and onto the roof. But what they've done is, as I said, they've just put this sign on there, not an exit for fire or for emergency exits only. And, so it looks to me like the same kind of thing. And a handicapped person obviously couldn't go down a spiral stairway.
Mine's funny. I wanted to say just this active shooter stuff, the scary stuff that happens when it brings about safety issues and stuff and making only certain entrances and stuff, but it also cuts off accessible stuff too. And I get how serious this is, I really do. But I was thinking, for an alarm, not a noise, but push a button like when the banks have a silent alarm, so you can call the police right away or something like that. That would be the way to go. Yeah, be as quiet as you can. Don't make any noise. But that's important. But I don't have any answers for this. But it just kills me when the accesses, all the entrances and stuff are cut off to one thing, and they're not wheelchair accessible or something for safety issues, for reasons. And it's I recently, a number of years ago, I recently stopped working. I went ahead and retired, and 2 months later was 9/11, and so they cut off there were several entrances to this building, and they cut them all off except for the one for security reasons. But the entrances that I had to go to get to this was one of the ones they cut off. So I would have had to have special compensation and stuff. But my point is we need to work together on this so that if you do hire a manager, an on-site manager that uses a wheelchair, what are they going to do?
Jim, go ahead, Jim.
I thought Marcia was up for...
Oh, okay. You go ahead. You go first.
Yeah, I do have some comments. Number one, the majority of the cases that this committee hears have to do with gaining some sort of relief for better appreciation or understanding for ADA requirements and the intent and spirit of the law. And I appreciate the consensus of this group, and I'm very sensitive to that. I am worried about where we're headed with this sort of thing. You know, is this really the best approach? It's a little different situation, and I don't mean to take anything away from the experience you had. I regret the experience that you've had. But I worked with a lot of very notable people, famous people, influential people, and they built their dream houses and such. And it was very common to build a panic room into these facilities. And I guarantee you, not a one of them had a second door. The door, the openings are your exposure, your liability. And I'm convinced that you'd be better off considering some other mitigations, cameras, hardening the doors, knowing who's coming into your office before they get there, making sure that nobody gets into your office that you don't want there, is going to serve you far better than taking what little extra space you have in your office away to encounter, you know, the door swing and whatever else is involved in making that happen. So I would urge you to consider other mitigations as you proceed with this. I think you'd be better served.
Chair,
No, go
I had some questions regarding the exit route and the landing area between the two doors that you have here. You're saying it doesn't meet any of the requirements over on the other page with accessibility standards here. But yet, I don't, you know, as an architect, I'm just looking at it trying to think, well, what if you did it this way, or what if you did it that way? That's kind of, and I found this to be probably around the second time where they don't really dimension the actual problem. And it would be a little more helpful from someone like me to have a little blow up of that area so I could just play with it in my mind, which is my tendency. And I don't have the information, the door sizes, or, you know, the dimension of that area of refuge before you exit. And so I can't consider other options. It makes it difficult for me to consider other options.
Might I comment on those?
Yes, go ahead.
With regard to this, it's pretty much to scale. There is not much
So I could take
room.
my scale, and the scale here is quarter?
Well, I shouldn't say it's the scale, but it's relative. You could see the 5-foot dimension and the 7-foot dimension there. So that little hallway is about 3'6". It's very, very tight. And then to the other comment, Bernie, do we have cameras at that location now?
We do have cameras at the property. I was fortunate enough to be able to, with this particular incident, fortunate enough to. If you're going to come on over, sure. we want to make sure we record these, so it's good to have you on the audio file. Thank you. Appreciate it.
With this particular incident, I was fortunate enough that the person was coming through the front of the property, and where my desk is situated, I was able to see him coming in and then get to my door and lock it right away. There is a rear entrance to this area that I'd basically have to be watching the cameras 24/7 to see if this guy is going to be possibly coming in through the back door, which obviously I'm not going to be able to do. So that would be my response to just trying to make sure we have everything in order before he gets there, or securing the door before he gets there. It is possible for him to take an alternate route that I could not see unless I was watching the cameras at that moment.
So in order to make this, Chair,
Yes.
In order to make this more, if it were to be made accessible, you would have to relocate that toilet, and then it could be made accessible.
There's actually, oh yes, I see what you're saying with the bathroom downstairs.
Yeah, with the bathroom.
Yes.
That would be the only other option, which would...
Yes. Although, even at that point, there is a step from the landing to the outside.
That's higher.
There's a step, so it's higher.
Yeah.
And again, looking to the future, unfortunately, when this was being designed, it had been planned for the secondary door. When the plan check comes in, it was a matter of the easiest way to resolve it without stopping the whole project and moving, not moving forward, was to say, okay, let's get the door closed. As we move forward, we learn from past mistakes, so to speak. So as we move forward, we would be looking for alternate routes that would meet accessibility. So this is an unfortunate situation that it was designed with such restrictions that in the future we would be looking for alternate routes on newer projects.
So, Mr. Chair, when you feel the board has provided the comments, you may want to just ask them if there are any additional comments. And this is what the kind of conversation and dialogue I was hoping to receive, so that Skip and I can sit down and we can go through your comments and we can look at what's required and we can determine what the next steps are going to be. So if there's additional comments, this would be a good time to make it.
The only way that door will swing is it's got to swing out. It can't swing in.
Yeah, that's correct,
Yeah.
because it is so tight. If you swung it in,
Yeah,
it would
it's
really,
hard to tell from the drawing how
Yeah,
tight.
yeah.
Going to swing in,
Yeah, it
Yeah.
swings in.
which you'd want it to, otherwise you're going to,
Yeah, into the path.
it's going to path.
Did you
I'm
say
sorry.
swing in? This is
Swing
for
in.
clarification.
Yes.
I thought you said swing out.
So the door, right now, what's proposed is the door swings out into the office, right? Because the landing on the other side of the door is so small that if the door swung the other way into the landing, it would make that even a tighter area, right? With the thickness of the door and the hinge offset when that door swings into the landing.
Plus, it would be against what we allow for landings.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's interesting that we're speaking about that, because typically when we're building a hazardous occupancy where multiple exit paths are required, they're all required to swing out, because if you're trying to get out in a hurry, it needs to go out. Again, I urge you to consider other mitigations, hardening the thing. You don't have to watch a camera if your office is locked. I think you're better served. I really do. And I think the spirit of the law needs to be upheld. Otherwise, we've got this slippery slope that we're on. So I urge you to rethink it.
May I make a comment?
Yes, you may.
This is why I would really like a site visit, because I'm really confused about. I've looked at the map, at the floor plan and whatnot, and I've been over in the area once, but that's was a long time, was a while ago, and I really am not envisioning quite what you're talking about. So thank you.
Are these windows here?
Code modification?
Are these windows in the office? I assume they are.
Yes. If you're looking at the white part as opposed to the black part,
Those
the
are
white are windows.
So if you got to harden it, you have to rip those out and put bulletproof windows in. If you want to make a hardened case, you're going to have to put bulletproof windows in. You're going to have to run steel plate all around the walls.
Yes.
I'm not so sure that's going to be so cheap.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, board members, for your input. It's very, very helpful to us.
Take the window out and go up that way.
Although he wants to see what's going on.
As well, thank you for your time. I appreciate
Suggest
it.
an alternative. If you don't like this corner for it, and the door you don't like the swing on, take the window out here and go out.
That's a question for, it's more of a question
I
toward,
don't know who I addressed that
Well,
to.
yeah.
I mean, that's the chair to answer. Yeah, you know where you have the R over here for the outside of the building. If it doesn't go well with this board giving you approval for where you placed it now, why couldn't you just, they'd have to change the manager's desk over to where this R is so that the door would be behind the manager's stand, but they could get outside. That's even better, because you have further place to run. Up here, you're getting jammed into a staircase. Even if they got you, you're stuck. I mean, I don't know.
Thank you, and I did want to say thank you for your consideration. I know we're the only item on your agenda, but we appreciate your time and your comments.
Thank you.
So they're going to vote on this just the way it is?
To vote? Huh? Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Information only. It's just information only.
Really?
Yeah.
I would definitely go out there.
So you're saying we need a motion from the?
No. Just
Not at all.
information only.
No.
Sorry, this is unusual, right?
Yeah,
It's
yes.
not an appeal, it's just for information. We
Yeah.
gathered the information and comments that
Yeah.
Skip and I were hoping to get.
Okay, good.
And now, I think Melissa wants to go over some dates of upcoming meetings, but other
Okay.
than that, there's no action that the board takes on this.
Yeah.
It's not
Okay.
an appeal, it's just information that, and quite honestly, I wanted Skip to hear from the board's perspective on this. Just to kind of check in to see, are we in building and safety doing the right thing when we tell them that that door really can't be approved there, right? I
You
want to make
are.
sure I'm listening to you and I understand where you're coming from, so.
Well, wait a minute. Let me ask you, we didn't say it can't be approved, did we?
You were not asked to approve or disapprove. You were only asked to provide comment and
Right.
feedback.
So if, otherwise there should have been a vote called.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what I was following, but it's actually seeking the board advice. So it's
Yeah.
put in their comments. Melissa, what do you-
Okay, so January's meeting was scheduled for January 3rd. It has now been canceled. We do not have any items to go before the board at this point to cover that meeting. Unfortunately, February's meeting is going to have to be rescheduled from the first Thursday. There's two dates that I have in mind. One would be either January 26th, which is a Tuesday.
January or February?
January 26th, either to move it up by a week to January 26th, or to move it down to February 23rd at 2:30. Both are Tuesdays.
What are the days of the week?
Both are Tuesdays. Tuesday.
They're Tuesdays?
Mhm.
Well, the 20, okay, yeah.
You have a better feel than we do for what sort of cases or situations are pending. We want to make sure that you have timely access to appeals for those things that face you. So if you could make some suggestion, we'd like to try to follow that, I'm sure.
There's only one other appeal that I've been made aware of. We had someone submit an appeal form for a project that we hadn't made our decision on yet. So they were anticipating what our decision was going to be. So they were like appealing what they thought we were going to do. And I ran that by the city attorney just because I thought, I don't really think that you can appeal. Someone can appeal what they think we're going to do. They have to wait till we act, then they can appeal it.
Okay.
So that's out there, and that'll probably come to us sometime next month. Maybe this month. It depends when we make that final decision and finish the plan check. There's probably one case that'll come before the board early in 2016, either January or February, that I know of.
In that case, I'd suggest we take the February date. That gives you more time to wait for this person to make their appeal.
So there are pros and cons both ways, right? We can wait till February, and that we will accumulate potentially a longer agenda, which is more efficient for operating the board. When you're an appellant and you want a decision to be, an appeal to be heard, to tell someone in the middle of December that they have to wait till the end of February, that doesn't feel good, right? So there's that balance of how do we serve the community and at the same time operate in an efficient manner and not just hear one item at a time. So if the board wants to discuss that and make actually when you make your decision, whether it's going to be late February or late January, then that you will have made your decision and given us direction as to whether or not you want to have people to have an opportunity for earlier access to the board or later access in February.
I just think we should settle on a particular date for each month and time. And I realize you got to deal with the schedule of this room and all that. But I think that's how most meetings, most committees work. It's just there's a set time, and we can't always, somebody may want to hear their stuff in a certain month, but if there's no time, if it doesn't fit in the schedule, that's too bad. And I just don't like having to. I feel like we're meeting at the whim of the client. And there's pros and cons to that, but I'd rather have a set schedule once a month.
We do have a set schedule.
Okay.
It's the first Thursday of every month.
All right.
At 2:30.
Okay.
But there's also movement as far as if the room's not available, which is the case for February. January, the reason that it would go so far out and that we do need to think of the customer, the applicant, is because it is a 2-month wait period if we do push it out till the end of February. And that's just because the February date has to be moved. January, we don't have anything for January's.
And in addition to that, we don't have the regular full agendas. We have issues that surface from time to time. So my question again was just asking you to give us your best appraisal of when we should meet, and let's try to move towards that.
I think the plan has always been to have the monthly meetings. It's just that with holidays and pushing things out because we don't have applications, but we've got holiday time off, we're kind of set back a little bit. So it's up to, I think, from what I'm understanding, it's up to you guys to decide. Do you want a fuller board agenda items, or do you want to have maybe 1 or 2 items?
I'd rather have fuller meeting. It just seems a lot of energy to come down here for more than one item.
On the other hand, people are still learning how to file appeals and to try to make something clear to us. And how many times have we heard something and felt like we were drinking through a fire hose the whole time? You know, it's really something that I would love to be able to do at some point, but I feel that a shorter agenda is not going to hurt my conscience at all.
Well, Mr. Chair, this is the input that the board can discuss, and then someone can make a motion, and you can vote on that motion. You know, take a second and vote on the motion, and that'll establish the date that you want to meet. So the discussion's good. It's been healthy, and the 2 dates were January 26th, which is a Tuesday at 2:30, or February 23rd, which is a Tuesday at 2:30.
Okay. Anyone like to make a motion for January 26th?
I'll make a motion to do that, for that.
Okay, for that day? Second? Anybody?
I'll second.
Jim, second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 January 26th it is.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Well enough.
That's a Tuesday,
Yes.
At 2:30.
Yeah, 2:30.
make Tuesdays.
So the meeting is yours to close out.
Yep.
My working hours.
All adjourned. All in favor? Anyone want to be second?
But not.
Aye.
Okay. All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
Who made the motion to adjourn?
Oh, yeah.
Bonnie did.
I don't need to use this. Thank you, and I hope you all have a good holiday season. I appreciate
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.
You too, thank
Really
you.
appreciate the advice.
I'm going to make a motion to adjourn.
That's it?